There are plenty of wide receivers worth watching in 2022, but there is one specific that is more interesting than the rest: Allen Robinson. The 2014 second-round pick has at times been the best wideout in the league, despite having, well, nobody good throwing him the football. In Jacksonville, it was Blake Bortles, and in Chicago, it was mainly Mitch Trubisky. Safe to say that Robinson has never played with an above-average passer, which is why him signing with the Rams is such a big deal. Now, Robinson is set to be a top target for Matthew Stafford, and he's not going to have to face defense's best guys either, because Los Angeles has Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is going to warrant a lot of attention, and man, Allen Robinson could seriously have a crazy good year. Robinson was born in Detroit in 1993, and he went to St. Mary's Preparatory. His senior year, Robinson caught 44 passes for 720 yards and 10 touchdowns. He also returned 2 punts for touchdowns and had 2 picks. Plus, he was even a captain of the basketball team. Robinson was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school and a top 20 player in Michigan. He received offers from Buffalo, Minnesota, and Toledo before opting to go to Penn State to play under Joe Paterno. His true freshman year, Robinson caught just 3 passes for 29 yards. He was surprisingly thrusted into the number 1 wideout role in 2012 under new head coach Bill O'Brien, and Robinson quickly succeeded with QB Matt McGloin, who actually went on to start 7 games for the Raiders. Robinson led the Big Ten with 11 receiving touchdowns and had over 1,000 yards. Catching passes from Christian Hackenberg, Robinson had a great junior year with over 1,400 yards and 97 catches. Both led the Big Ten. Plus, he found the end zone 6 times. He was an All-American and first-team All-Big Ten for the 2nd straight year. He opted to skip his senior year to declare for the 2014 draft. Robinson was the perfect-sized wide receiver prospect who was a polished route runner that could get open and had the chance to develop into a good possession receiver. He constantly got open against press coverage, and he could go up and get passes. Plus, playing with Christian Hackenberg, he showed that he could adjust and catch, bad passes, which is something he had to deal with at Penn State and then in the pros too. There was some downsides though. He wasn't great after the catch, and he never really gave a lot of effort blocking, and he was just kind of inconsistent when it came to tracking the ball and body control and everything really. His pro comp was actually Jordy Nelson. A realistic expectation for Robinson was to become a number 2 or 3 receiver. He was projected to be a 2nd or 3rd rounder, and the Jaguars actually traded up to take him 61st overall. Robinson started his rookie year in Jacksonville as the number 4 wideout and was even behind 2 other rookies, Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns. Robinson played in 10 games and started in 8 of them, but his season was derailed after he suffered a stress fracture in his foot. He recorded 548 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was named a starter for 2015, and out of nowhere, he was one of the best wideouts in the NFL. Robinson led the Jaguars in pretty much every single receiving stat: 80 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns, which were actually tied for the most in the league. He wasn't the only stud in Jacksonville either. Hurns had a breakout year with over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. The 2 were nicknamed Thunder and Lightning, or the Allen brothers. Robinson ended up making the Pro Bowl and being ranked 31st on the NFL Top 100 Players of 2016, and his production definitely decreased. Playing in every game, Robinson just had 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. 2017 ended up being Robinson's last year in Jacksonville, and it didn't go as planned at all. In week 1, Robinson caught a single pass for 17 yards before he left the game with what was a torn ACL that ended his season. In the 2018 offseason, Robinson signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Bears. He caught passes from Mitch Trubisky in 2018 and had 754 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pro Football Focus gave him a 77.7 overall grade, which was 28th of all qualifying wide receivers. That postseason, Robinson played in his first ever playoff game and set 2 Bears franchise records: 10 receptions and 143 yards. Robinson returned back to truly elite form in 2019. He had over 1,000 yards for the 2nd time in his career, and he found the end zone 7 times. Robinson went for over 1,200 yards in 2020, scored 6 touchdowns, and had over 100 receptions. Ahead of 2021, the Bears placed the franchise franchise tag on Robinson, but he ended up missing 5 games throughout the year because of a hamstring injury and COVID. In 12 games, Robinson only had 400 yards and had a single touchdown. Robinson got paid big this offseason. He inked a 3-year, $46.5 million deal with the Rams, and he's stepping into a perfect situation in Los Angeles, and there's 2 big reasons why. Matthew Stafford and Kupp. Last season, Kupp had over 1,900 yards and 16 touchdowns on 145 receptions, all of which led the league. He was absolutely incredible and won Offensive Player of the Year, but he wasn't that same player before 2021. Kupp had just shy of 1,000 yards and only 3 touchdowns. Now, he was great in 2019, 1,161 yards and 10 touchdowns, and that was coming off of a season where he did tear his ACL about midway through. Really though, Kupp had been impressive from the moment he got to Los Angeles. He had over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns as a rookie after he was taken in the 3rd round in 2017. Kupp went from a very good NFL wide receiver to one of the best in the game. So what happened? Well, he went from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. The Rams traded 2 firsts, a 3rd, and Goff to get Stafford, who Sean McVay clearly thought would be a massive upgrade to help Los Angeles get over the hump to a Super Bowl. And he was right. Stafford was great for 12 years in Detroit. He made a Pro Bowl, and he's a member of the Lions' all-time team, but he never won a playoff game. Well, in 2021, Stafford threw for 4,886 yards and 41 touchdowns to 17 interceptions that did lead the league, actually. More importantly, though, he won a playoff game for the first time. And well, he did more than that. The Rams won the Super Bowl, and Stafford had a perfect ending to one hell of a redemption story. Now it's time for Allen Robinson's redemption story, and Stafford is a big piece of that. The biggest problem for Robinson in his pro career, and really college too, has been the lack of a good quarterback. Blake Bortles was not the guy and was inconsistent at best. Mitch Trubisky wasn't exactly great himself either. Last year, Robinson caught passes from Justin Fields, who he was busy learning that offense, and he just sucked really bad, but the whole offense was bad. He was by far the best weapon on that awful Chicago team, and now Robinson should mostly be an afterthought on a really good Rams offense. Plus, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that Stafford is significantly better than anyone Robinson has caught passes from. Not to mention, there is still a chance that Robinson could be the number 3 wideout or the number 2 ahead of Odell Beckham Jr. He tore his ACL in the Super Bowl and is still a free agent, but the Rams do reportedly even have a locker ready for him if he decides to come back. He signed with the Rams mid-season last year after the Browns waived him, and in 8 games in the regular season in LA, Beckham had over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Not great, but in the postseason, he had about 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in 4 games. Imagine a wide receiver core of Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham Jr., and Van Jefferson. That's wild, and the Rams are already on the cusp of competing for another Super Bowl this season. Sean McVay is still an offensive mastermind that can outsmart anyone, and he is coaching a team that is loaded and apparently doesn't care about a salary cap because they just do whatever they want somehow. Cam Akers is expected to have a big year in the backfield, and the Rams still should have about a top 10 offensive line in the league. Of course, you have the defense. Aaron Donald is still an absolute freak and maybe the best football player on the planet, and he got a renegotiated contract this offseason. Jalen Ramsey is still one of the best corners in the pros, and teams avoid throwing to him. And of course, the Rams had one big offseason signing, Bobby Wagner. Wagner has been an all-pro every single year, and after the Seahawks cut him loose, he signed in Los Angeles, probably to try to chase after that second ring. And man, the Rams might get it. The roster is loaded from top to bottom, and Allen Robinson is just another stud in Los Angeles.